City Club of Eugene's May 10th, 2024 program. My name is Andrew Calick, and I am City Club's president. We're coming to you today from Headquarters Wine Bar and Shop in downtown Eugene, and it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our speakers and to all of you joining us here in person, online, and over the radio. For 3 decades, the City Club of Eugene has remained dedicated to its founding mission to build community vision through open inquiry. In accordance with our mission and purpose, we hope to help connect people throughout our community and across generations, identities, experiences, and perspectives. You are invited this week and every week to join us in this effort, to share your wisdom, to learn something new, and to take active steps to make a difference in this city and region that we love. Of course, we cannot do this work alone, so a special thank you this morning to our Platinum Community and Diamond sponsors. The Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce, serving as a catalytic leader in creating a vibrant and diverse economy that drives economic opportunity and well-being. Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. More information at uoregon.edu. Peace Health has been proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond as your hometown healthcare partner for more than 80 years. The Peace Health mission is to keep you and your family healthy. Learn more at peacehealth.org. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. Thank you to the City of Eugene and to Lane County for their support as well. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a longtime listener, I invite you to support our work by becoming an individual member, a business or community sponsor, or volunteering to be part of our committee or our board. You can do those things and more at cityclubofeugene.org. From the vineyard to the tasting room, Eugene is at the heart of the Southern Willamette Valley's wine industry, and we are honored today to welcome an expert panel of local and statewide leaders to discuss this growing part of our economy. Justin King is King Estate Winery's National Sales Manager. Morgan McLaughlin is the Executive Director of the Willamette Valley Wineries Association. And Aaron Schwartz is the owner of Julian Sinclair, a Eugene-based wine importer and distributor, and also our host today here at headquarters. Please join me in welcoming our panel.
I'm going first. Okay. Well, hi everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Justin King, and as Andrew mentioned, thanks for that great introduction, Andrew. I'm with King Estate Winery. Let's see. It's tough to know where to start here, but I would say that the Oregon wine industry. It's been incredible to watch it grow over the last 30 years. My family's company started. Our first vintage was 1992, and really just maybe a couple dozen commercially operating wineries in the state at that time, and I think there's about roughly 1,000 labels at this point. So a huge amount of growth. But before I kind of just dive into a lot of numbers and so history here, I think it would be good to pass the mic down a little bit and share the intro here. Can you use that one? Okay.
As previously mentioned, I'm Morgan McLaughlin. I'm the Executive Director of the Willamette Valley Wineries Association and newly formed Wine Foundation, which is our philanthropic arm. I'm going to be talking specifically about the history of the Willamette Valley, some current initiatives around sustainability, also talking a little bit about tourism and business climate here in the Southern Willamette Valley and the importance of Eugene in being an anchor for wine tourism to the valley.
I'm Aaron Schwartz. I'm, along with my wife, the owner of this establishment and also a small distribution and import company based in Eugene. I'm going to be talking about this wine bar here in Eugene and the local scene, but also about a niche in the market that we fill that's developed in the last 10 to 15 years. The wine industry has at least in this state, changed in the last 10 to 15 years as much as it did in the 50 preceding. So I'm going to highlight some of the more unusual, exciting things that are happening.
So one thing just to start us off with a little bit of perspective about kind of the impact of the Oregon wine industry today. This is a study from 2022, our last economic impact study. And the current statewide, this is not just for Lane County, of course, but current statewide economic impact of the wine industry in 2022 was $8.1 billion. And when we talk about that economic impact, that is creating jobs relating to industries like farming, banking, accounting, manufacturing, packaging, transportation, printing, advertising. So really quite a large economic impact for the state and each region within the state. The wine industry generates about $265 million in taxes for the state as well. And we create about 40,000 jobs throughout the state. Contribution of wine-related tourism to the state's economy in 2022 was $758 million. So it's really grown quite significantly as an industry. And all the while, it's done so while kind of, I would say, embodying who we are and our values. We lead the nation in terms of organic and biodynamically certified vineyard acreage. So sustainable farming is really quite central to the Oregon wine industry. And then I would also say that it's a special thing that, while we have a few larger producers in the state, actually 80+% of the producers in the state are producing under 5,000 cases. And they're not necessarily in three-tier distribution either. So, to restaurants, to wine club members, et cetera, et cetera. So, really an interesting, very diverse profile that we have in the state for Oregon wine businesses. Have any thoughts on that, Morgan?
Now, Justin, you did not mention that you serve on the leadership board of the Oregon Wine Board. Do you want to just mention quickly?
I guess I should do that. Yes. So I have been on the Oregon Wine Board for the last 5.5 years now. This year's my last year. Chaired the organization in 23 and 22, and I'm still here. The Oregon Wine Board is a pretty fabulous organization. Just went through a big revolution, big change in leadership, and we're really excited about the future for the organization. The Oregon Wine Board. There are many associations and groups within the Oregon wine industry. The Oregon Wine Board, though, is distinct in that it's a semi-independent state agency. So it's a tax-funded agency. It's funded through a tonnage tax. It's $25 a ton. Half of that's paid by, usually half of that's paid by the winery, half of that's paid by a vineyard. If you've got, two different entities there, if it's just one entity, they pay the whole thing. But basically, it's funded through a tonnage tax, and so in that sense, we really represent the entire state, so every AVA in the state. And just for anybody who might not know the term AVA, that is American Viticultural Area. And so that's referring to areas within the state or regions within the state that have distinct sort of geological or sort of climate-related aspects to them. So again, there are a number of associations across the state that represent the Oregon wine industry. In the Willamette Valley, we have the Willamette Valley Wineries Association, of which Morgan McLaughlin is the executive director. So the Oregon Wine Board works very closely with the WVWA and other industry associations as well. Take it away, Morgan.
Well, again, thank you everyone for taking the time today. I think it's important to know too that the work that the Oregon Wine Board does is centered around three main pillars: education, research, and marketing, all of which are incredibly important for the vitality and health of the overall industry. It's not a membership-based organization, as Justin mentioned. It's industry assessments that pay for that industry work. And then when you look at individual regions within the state, the Willamette Valley is the largest for both area, planted vineyard acreage, and also the number of producing wineries. And we are particularly excited to celebrate this year as the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Willamette Valley AVA, which now you know the acronym, American Viticultural Area. And this is a significant period of time in which the federal government gives you official recognition as an important place for growing grapes. And when you have a milestone birthday or anniversary, it's a really good chance to look back at the history and the progress that the industry has had, and also look forward to, what do the next 40 years look like? Where are there areas of opportunity? Where are there headwinds and challenges? To give you the framing, as I said, we're the largest growing area. We represent in total acreage about 3.5 million total acres. That's not planted acres. We're just over 30,000 planted acres, and that is running from, believe it or not, the city of Portland is within the AVA boundaries, so that northern part of Willamette Valley all the way down to the southern end in the Eugene area. We, within the Willamette Valley, we have what we call nested AVAs, so 11 official growing regions. We call them nested because they're part of the family. Sometimes terminology is used like sub-AVA, but we like to use the word nested to indicate more cohesion and connection. Most of those nested AVAs began forming in the northern part of the valley, but as our region is maturing and we're looking at the next 40 years, I expect that continued development of nested AVAs to continue down south, which I think is an important continuing story for the Willamette Valley, is looking at areas and unique places for growing grapes. You all know this, but it's a good reminder that Pinot Noir is our most widely planted, most widely made wine. When any of you travel the globe or go to other parts of the country and you say, I'm from Eugene, I'm from the Willamette Valley, I'm from Oregon, and if someone knows wine and food, they will often associate, oh, Pinot Noir. And so it's an important flagship for us, and it's also an important differentiation for Oregon and the Willamette Valley. There are very few places in the US that can grow Pinot Noir, and we are blessed to have the climate and terroir to make some of the best in the world. And to give you a bit of framing for that, I am traveling to Italy tomorrow morning to be on a panel with executive leaders from other European wine growing regions. We are the only US region represented, and it's really a testament to how much Oregon and Willamette Valley has grown in reputation, that we get to sit at a table next to executives from Burgundy, Bordeaux, Portugal, Champagne. So it's a sense of local pride for all of you. Even if you don't drink wine, it's important to know that it's something to be very proud of. Just like when you wear your Nike shoes and people are like, oh, it's Oregon made. It's important that we have a thriving industry. But I think what you might be talking about is there's a lot of other exciting varieties being grown, different wine styles. Pinot Gris, which I think King Estate is, I think.
We've grown some.
Is the second most planted grape variety in the Willamette Valley. We're also getting a lot of excitement around Chardonnay. You may have heard of another acronym called ABC. This was anything but Chardonnay, and it was a little bit of based on kind of a generic flavor profile for California Chardonnay. It's a very generalization. And people are getting re-energized and re-excited about Chardonnay, especially coming from Oregon and the Willamette Valley. There's a vibrancy and a uniqueness. So it's just exciting to see the growth of other varieties and other folks kind of pushing the boundaries of wine making and style and representation. And I think that's when we look at the next 40 years, that's going to be an exciting maturing of our industry. Anywhere you go in the world, you all know this. You mentioned Oregon, Eugene. They think of green. They think of sustainability. They think of preserving land, preserving community. And I think that's really woven into the wine industry as well. Justin mentioned certifications that historically have been very centered on land, being good stewards to land. But what we're also seeing now is the recognition of human sustainability. And you see that in new programs for vineyard stewards. And the fact that we no longer call those who work in the vineyard workers, we call them stewards. They're stewards of the land and important touch points. There is ag overtime now for vineyard stewards. There are education opportunities for those to advance their careers, potentially move into tasting room and cellar work. So that's an exciting development. And we also have more wineries becoming B Corp certified, which is looking at kind of a more holistic approach to sustainability within a business model. And that also includes the human component. And then 2 years ago, we formed the Willamette Valley Wine Foundation. So this is a 501c3 Oregon-based charity that is at the intersection of affordable housing, early childhood education, and healthcare. And I think that's a testament to the growing and maturing of the Willamette Valley wine industry, but also recognizing the importance of thriving and sustainable communities. So we're excited about that future work. You should also know and be proud that when you buy a bottle of Oregon wine and it says Oregon on the label, which I'm sure you can give some feedback on, that wine is 100% from Oregon. There are no grapes from California, there are no grapes from Washington, and the industry led the development of more strict labeling regulations than the federal government requires. And I think historically that has positioned and protected Oregon as a brand. The value of when you buy and drink an Oregon wine, that you know it's from Oregon, that place matters.
Let's say most of them are from Oregon.
Yes.
No, and it's really, so just to really jump in there really quickly,
Yeah.
the federal standard for content and labeling is 75%. Basically, the wine has to be 75% the variety that you say it is. Then it can be 25% sort of whatever you want, more or less from wherever you want. In Oregon, I believe, if you want to call it Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, I believe it's 95. I believe it's 95. 95% of the wine has to be from the Willamette Valley. Well, actually, sorry, 100% of the wine has to be from Oregon. 95% of the wine has to be from Willamette Valley, and 95% of it has to be Pinot Noir. So we have very high standards for our labeling and content.
Yeah. And when there are producers from California that don't follow the rules, we make sure that they follow the rules.
Make sure that they follow the rules.
So our association really works diligently on the importance of protecting place names. And so on the international world, we work collaboratively with 33 other countries, wine producing countries and regions, where we are all mission to protect our individual place names. And this work started originally from Champagne, where producers around the world outside of Champagne were using the word Champagne. Champagne is not made anywhere else in the world other than Champagne. And that is something that we, as an ethos, agree with. Just like Willamette Valley, there's only one Willamette Valley in the world, and we don't want others misusing that name. And we made that official in the EU in 2021. We have protected Willamette Valley in its use for wine. We are the only, us and the Napa Valley are the only two U.S. wine regions that have name protection in the EU. Napa recently has protected name use in China. So we expect as exports continue to evolve, China continues to be an opening market that will be looking for name protection in China. Just intellectual property protection is important there. And then I just lastly, the pandemic has had incredible impacts on the wine industry, the tourism industry specifically. And we are very much still in a recovery mode. I think one of the biggest challenges to wine was kind of an overnight movement to reservation-only models. You probably all remember prior to the pandemic that you just drop into tasting rooms, like, let's go to wine country, get up in the morning. And that changed during the pandemic for obvious health and safety and government regulation requirements. And that's continued to be something that evolves in our industry is, how do we continue working to welcome people, ensuring that trips to wine country can be spontaneous, while still kind of creating unique experiences that people plan for and get excited about. So I think when we're looking at the next phase of pandemic tourism recovery, we're going to see, I think, an expansion of new experiences, whether it's hikes in the vineyards or bring your dog, or learn blending in the cellar, to also a return to more casual walk-in tasting experiences. So I think you're going to see an expansion on both of those sides. Portland obviously has had an impact on tourism to Oregon, not just for wine tourism. We definitely have had people who say we're not going to come to Oregon because of what's happening in Portland. We don't feel safe. So we as an industry have, tried to work on messaging, and I think this also creates a unique opportunity for the Southern Willamette Valley, that there are two gateways to the valley. There's Portland to the north and there's Eugene to the south. I think the expansion of or return to commercial air service in Salem is exciting also, because that's going to bring more people and just give another area of opportunity. I think having more opportunities for access is important for tourism, especially for wine tourism. I just was in Seattle for the week, and it's super easy to get from Portland to Seattle. It's really hard to get from Portland to other parts of the Willamette Valley on public transportation. So I think that's going to be an interesting development over the next 40 years. And I feel like I've gone over my 10 minutes.
Thank you. I think the most value I can bring to this discussion is to talk about a small company in the wine industry in Oregon. And there's a lot of things that were brought up that I think I can touch on from a different perspective. I mean, the wine industry, Justin mentioned, is mostly family-owned, small production. There's just so many wineries that make 2,000 cases, 1,000 cases, 5,000 cases. And it sounds like a lot, but it's very, very little. So that's really the backbone of the industry. And we sit in this middle portion, which is as a distributor or wholesaler and an importer. And we perform a function that's very important in the way that the Oregon tiered system is set up, where we move wine from wineries to restaurants, or to wine shops, or to grocery stores. Now, wineries can do that themselves separately, and many of them do, but as you can imagine, as you grow, you need a distribution network. I mean, what we do is more than 50% of what we do is logistics. How do we get the van from our warehouse to the customer? or how do we get the wine from the winery to our warehouse? And the way that the industry is set up right now on the wholesale side, which again is a part of the industry that I think regular people don't think of, and they don't need to think about it. But in Oregon, customers, retail customers, need to pay for the wine when it is delivered on the wholesale side. So the entire supply chain is really tight. So you can imagine it's not easy being a restaurant before the pandemic. It's especially not easy during and after the pandemic. A restaurant is not going to order more wine than they need if they have to pay for it right when it comes through the door. So we're frequently delivering to the same restaurant twice a week in Portland. But back to sort of the small business. I mean, we're 10 people. We cover the whole state. Half of those people do logistics. They do warehouse work. They're driving. We have a driver right now going to Bend to do our weekly delivery. And then we are sales. So we're a part of that kind of small family-owned wine industry in Oregon that I think a lot of people don't think about. And our side is, the wholesale side and import side is very active in Oregon and always has been. There's been some consolidation over the last few years, but there's a lot of small, I would actually argue we're kind of a medium-sized distributor that are facilitating the movement of wine to where you all are purchasing it or seeing it in the store. But I also want to touch on a couple of things. So we talked about how, in Willamette Valley, the requirements are stricter. If you're going to say you're Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, you have to have 95% Pinot Noir, and the federal rules are 75%. One thing that's very nice about AVAs in the United States and the way they're regulated, which is very different from Europe, is that you have the freedom to use that AVA and grow any grape you'd like as long as you're within that AVA. If you're making wine in Burgundy, you only have a few grapes to choose from. And that's based on history, tradition. Frankly, people in Burgundy probably aren't going to grow something else because it's not worth what Pinot Noir from Burgundy is. But kind of in the American spirit, things are much more open here. I mean, the industry is new. It's very creative. And in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been an explosion of small wineries that have been experimenting with different varietals, not just Pinot Noir, not just Pinot Gris. Chardonnay is up and coming, of course, but I mean, there are thousands of other varietals, and the Willamette Valley is very big, so there's lots of microclimates. There's lots of suitable unexplored areas in the Willamette Valley to grow all these other grapes. And as the world gets smaller, people in Oregon are aware of Chardonnay from Jura and all these unusual places in France, and they drink it, and so they think, wow, maybe we can do that in Oregon. And really, that's the position where we are in the market in Oregon. We work with wineries in Oregon, and we import, but specifically the Oregon wineries that are very experimental. They're making wine from grapes you've never heard of, Ribolla Gialla, and they're also focusing, again, on sustainability. Certified organic or biodynamic vineyards are very important in this part of the industry. I'll say a term which is very general and has no agreed definition, but very generally, I'm speaking of a part of the wine industry called natural wine. They're branching out, and they have this freedom to kind of go